All right, there we go. Recording is running. Hey, everybody. Thanks for turning on your cameras. That's fun. That's nice to see everybody. Welcome. If you heard us kind of chatting before we started, it's going to be very loose today. I don't have a whole lot of, unfortunately, a whole lot of answers, but maybe we have a lot of questions and we'll just chat. And we'll kind of move through the time. We'll stay on as long as we need to. We won't go longer than an hour, but if we decide in 45 minutes we've had enough, we bail out. All right, just to give you a sense of, there's me. Hi, I guess I'll manage this because it's my Zoom account, so I guess I get to manage it. That is me. I'm the director of the New Jersey's Assistive Technology Act project. There's all our information. When this recording is done, we'll drop it up on our YouTube channel. So I'll tweet a link out so people know where the recording is, and it will also live there as well. There's the people who were on our panel last week. I see Elisa's here with her fancy camera. It's now in order. Kelly's here, but not in video, I don't think. Oh, Chris is here. There he is. Okay. Hey, Chris.
Mike, you're in danger. Get off that planet.
What are you talking about? There's no problem here. What's the matter?
That's no moon, Mike.
That's no moon. Chris, I'm gonna deviate to tell you the story that I told everybody else before he jumped on. I was doing recording modules for my college course before, and so I broke it up into 4 chunks. And every time I changed the background and changed my outfit and never mentioned it the whole time, just continued on in the conversation. So this was one. I like this. It's a nice picture. So it gets to stay. So Chris is here and Kelly's here. Alyssa's here. I don't think Luis is here. And I don't think Jen is here. And I don't think Karen is here. So that means everybody else gets to jump in and steal their spot on the fancy R panel slide. So feel free. And of course, this is wide open. It's not just these people talking by a long shot. It's any and all of us. So the chat's rolling. Feel free to jump into the chat and ask a question. Turn your camera on and your microphone on and ask a question. That's fine too. This is definitely, if you weren't here last week, it's very free flowing. I think I have 4 questions that are set, maybe a couple more. But we can talk about anything you guys want. I definitely know I don't have all the answers. I don't even know all the questions. So feel free, jump in. I like it. We're going to get some background noise from people. I love it. It's great. If you're looking for resources, they do live on this web link here, this bit.ly. It's remote access for all. So bit.ly/remote access for all. I've just been dropping stuff up there as I find links, as I see different things, as people share stuff on Twitter. I was saying to a group the other day, and I'll say it here too, because I think it was really important. I've found a new appreciation for Twitter. I always liked Twitter as a way to share and learn. But I think now that everybody is remote and everybody's looking for questions to answer, I feel like it's become even better. And so I hope that you're on Twitter. If you're not, you should spend some time this afternoon and get on there. There, I gave you something to do. There was our topics from last week, and they haven't really changed as far as what we talked about last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. Very broad strokes, so if that fits into what you're going to want to talk about, great. If not, don't sweat it. We'll just let you dive in anyway and ask away. You can ask any question you want. I thought, why not start with a giant wordy slide? No, it's actually, I just read this morning. This was a guidance memo that the U.S. Department of Ed put out over the weekend, right? Isn't today the 23rd? Yeah, over the weekend. Kind of clarifying this idea of schools not doing instruction because they were afraid they weren't going to meet FAPE. And now they've kind of put some additional pieces of information out about how schools may be able to do this. And the pieces that the DOE envisions would still work in a remote form, as far as providing some services and supports for students with disabilities. I think it was the second slide that I really thought was interesting. Yeah. They wanted to ensure teams that because of this pandemic, there will be an inevitable delay in providing services. And so basically they're kind of, I guess, saying to people, don't panic right now. It'll all figure itself out. I think we're seeing that more than anybody else as we work in this field and provide supports to students. I thought this last chunk was really interesting. Federal law requires distance instruction to be accessible to students with disabilities, but it does not mandate the specific methodologies. And I feel like that's the problem. That's where we're at. That's our issue right now, is how are we doing that and what's it look like? So here you go. Why not start with a success? Anybody and everybody. Something. What happened last week that was a good thing? Or even this morning that was a positive. Anybody want to share something?
I'll go, Mike.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, as people are formulating their thoughts here for a positive, I know that despite this, the tragedy that is happening around the world with people getting sick and everything that is happening, in the long run, I know our school district, I feel, is going to come out way ahead here because of the work happening with accessibility. There's never been more conversations in our neck of the woods about accessibility and how do we make things accessible for everybody. Tools that we've had for ages, people are suddenly starting to discover again, or they've heard about it before, but they didn't really have to make use of it, and now they do. And so there has been a very great collaborative effort happening between the general ed side and the special education side, and this marrying of worlds, at least in our neck of the woods, to say, how can we're all in this together, and how do we make it work for every student individually? And I also feel like there's so much working happening right now that it's like this giant force field. You won't even know all the different problems that are being prevented because of the work happening to make things accessible as possible.
And I'm going to piggyback on what Chris just said. I had the same experience. I'm an assistive tech facilitator for our district, and I also collaborate with our instructional tech people. We had a meeting Friday, and they kind of talked about how, like, we had a 3-year plan on implementation that we were forced to go through in 1 week to get people on board. And, you know, one of the things that came up were like, how can kids annotate on PDFs? We're a read-write Google district. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have those tools, you guys. We don't have to go out and look for something. So documents that I had made long ago and shared long ago, all of a sudden are important. And people are using them now because now they have a need, where before it was like, well, I can get by not doing that. So that's the positive for me, are tools that we've always had. All of a sudden people get that every kid could benefit, but our kids really have to have it now that we're remotely. Yeah, I think you're right, Sandy. People are having those aha moments, right? And that's a good thing. That's good. And like Chris said, it's tough that it had to happen this way, but I guess it's a good thing in the long run when we settle into our new normal, whatever that looks like, that people have actually realized these things are there. I had a very positive email interaction with a school district I support over the weekend. And they were happy because they realized the tools that we had were already there and they could instantly start using them. And it allowed us to start having conversations about the deeper issues than just access to a tool. The tool is there and it's Chrome-based and it's web-based. They can all get to it. It's not an issue. And most students have been trained how to use it. But it was those bigger issues, like what about the other services? And I put it in a slide because we were talking about it, and then we'll jump back. Sorry, I thought I turned my phone off. That's me. Poor job of moderating. But what's interesting is we went through, and here, I'll just jump through because I thought it was fun. We had one of the teachers who does Orton Gillingham instruction said, I want a tool to be able to do some of my therapy. And I found one, but before I buy it, does anybody know one that's free? And so we had this nice like back and forth over the weekend about what did she want to do and how she wanted to do it. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen Wizmo. It's a website you can get a subscription to. And it does all of those pieces at the bottom: letter tiles, flashcards, word cards, phrases and sentences, all that stuff. It does a really nice job of it. It looks good. It's clean. It works well with the students. And I've seen it in action, but typically it's with the staff member and the student sitting side by side doing it. And now she wanted to use this in a remote way, and she's going to pair this with Screencastify.
and use it that way, which was awesome. And we had this really nice kind of deep conversation over the weekend about how to do that, which I thought was great.
Well, and I think the other conversation that's happening, not just access, but in our neck of the woods, we're on the small rural end of district size, and we are having huge conversations about equity.
Yeah.
We have so many kids. Our district is an east and west side. So our west side schools, we got a lot of kids with a lot of technology at home. Our east side schools, the only internet they have in their house is their parents' phone, or if they're in high school, their phone.
Right.
And it's creating some panic on our district's end, because we are not a huge district. We do not have, 3,000, 10,000 laptops sitting around to distribute.
Right.
We are not a one-to-one district, and it's creating a conversation that we've been having internally in little groups for years that now suddenly is important.
Yeah, and if I can jump in here, one thing that I have noticed a big change just here in the last week is districts contacting and talking about universal design for learning, which is exciting, because before that hasn't really happened when we've just had e-learning days, piped in every now and then. So now I'm working with the district to doing weekly check-ins just to see where they're at and how they can make things accessible. But UDL has been in the forefront, and they're actually very new to UDL. So that's so positive. So that makes me super excited.
Kelli, can I piggyback off of that? Because we're having the same thing. I mean, we're in the middle of UDL implementation, year 1 right now in our district. And so now it's almost like the issue is being forced. You don't have a choice. You have to design your experiences online in an accessible manner first, because FAPE requires us, our students are special, but they're regular ed students first. So FAPE comes from there. You have to make sure that that stuff is accessible first. Then we can go and maybe pull some materials or some resources for our teams to do that. We're fortunate. We have the technology. We have a lot of technology, but there are kids that don't have internet access. So Elisa's equity issue, that is a huge, huge, huge issue. And yes, in Maine, we're lucky. We can go outside. We have some spaces. So we're not just using technology. We're using a hybrid of both, where, parents can go and measure. So we're trying to do some like family togetherness type of things that connect to curriculum that can be an accessible and a real world application. But for people who can't get out or who don't have access to those things, that's a definite barrier for us. We've just approved Hangouts in our district to do office hours and to do the service delivery in 612. We're hoping to get K-5 right now, but we've got some legal questions that we're trying to flush through. And, always our state assistive technology programs are top notch. Each state has a great resource. Maine site has a resource. Mike, you might recognize some names on there. So I would check those as well. But it's an interesting opportunity, I think, for us. We've known all of this. We have all of this. So it's supporting and inviting people to really use the tools that we already have available.
Yeah. If I could shoot a quick plug for the ATX, check with your states and see what they're doing. Now, a lot of their services may be different now because of the fact that they don't want to be face-to-face with people, or they can't be face-to-face with people. But they may be providing remote services, and they may be willing to remote into some of your meetings to demonstrate technology and help you along with this process. I know we're doing that in ours. We can do remotes in with people across the state. But as far as lending programs, many of them have suspended their lending programs for now. They're not sending new technology out. So you're probably not going to get anything from them right now. That may change soon. Who knows? I mean, it may change next week, as early as next week. But I know here in New Jersey, we're not sending, we've suspended loans until the first week in April, and then we're going to review it. But I would imagine we'll push that back and not put loans out, at least for a while.
Yeah,
So-
and Mike, both Michelle and Valerie in the chat box said, you know, and I have seen this other places, the district is kind of working with wireless providers to try to give some web access. So it's a good community conversation. And Valerie said that not all of the 3-county kind of footprint she's working in have Wi-Fi, and we're in the same spot, that there are just some rural zones that are rural as rural can be, and it's just dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do many of you have or the schools open, have their Wi-Fi on so families can go?
Oh, what was that, Kelly? So they have their Wi-Fi on in a school?
Yeah. So are you seeing a lot of schools just accessing like the families can go into the parking lot and access the Wi-Fi?
I have no
Right.
idea.
I don't know either, but that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Ours
we have
is
a lot of schools.
ours is on, but right now our city has kind of pushed a shelter in place, so they're not. I mean, they're going out to get our meals. That this week is our spring break, so they've coordinated community and local restaurants that are providing the meals, because I guess there's some federal rule that we can't during spring break. But so other than that, everybody's saying don't go out. So I think in the long term, maybe it will be a solution for them to be able to drop by, because if you sit in the parking lot or near the front office, you can reach our Wi-Fi, but right now it's not an option because they don't want anybody going anywhere.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate that our IT department got access to some hotspots. So families who didn't have internet could come and check out a hotspot, and they did that like the beginning of last week. I mean, before I'm in Illinois, so we didn't go the hard lockdown until Saturday. So they were able to go and get that. I don't know if that's something you could look into. I know some of the cable companies have, like Comcast, I think, has reduced rates, and you know, there's something they can look in for that. But I know that was one of our solutions.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we had mentioned last week that Comcast Xfinity was opening up all of their Wi-Fi hotspots around the community so you could get to them without being a customer. Maybe more will do that. I know that doesn't help everywhere, especially some of those rural areas where there's not a hotspot anyway, but it might keep some people off the road while we continue to keep thinking about this process. I think that's great. Cool, look at us moving through. Other thoughts on this, or should I just keep flipping? I'll keep flipping. Look, I didn't even answer. I didn't wait for you to answer. It's the role of the moderator. They choose when we move. All right, how about this? This has been kind of a big thing. Hey, Elisa, you jump on this. Did you unmute your microphone already?
I'm jumping.
How about HIPAA?
So yes, whoever controls HHS controls HIPAA compliance, released the relaxed rules for HIPAA that said people could use FaceTime, people could use Skype, the things that weren't HIPAA compliant. We as a district decided we didn't care that they had relaxed the HIPAA rules, and we just, God forbid, there's some data breach, and in 3 months, something is out there. We are still only using platforms that are HIPAA compliant, which if you're a G Suite district and your IT department does not know about a BAA, they should sign a BAA, which means that all the Google Suite products like Google Meet then are HIPAA compliant. And we moved away personally for OT, PT, and speech from using HIPAA, from using Google Meet, because that is what our entire district is using. And I'm a little concerned about bandwidth and some other, we've had some issues with dropping and other stuff. So we are moving to a different platform, although all of our IEPs will be based in Google Meet, which again still lands in HIPAA compliant. BAA is a business associates agreement. I can post a link in the chat in a second that links straight to the G Suite one. Microsoft also has one. So if you are a Microsoft district, you can sign, then all of the Microsoft products are then HIPAA compliant. It's one of those things that, yes, it's nice that they relaxed it, but from a licensure perspective, from a healthcare perspective, our advice, you know, everything we've gotten from our national association down has been, yes, that's nice, but.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's nice, but yeah, I agree. Yeah. I have a little pet peeve, and I've been seeing people post it online too, and I thought I would throw it out here as well. I see a lot of people posting online pictures of their Zoom meetings or their Google Hangouts, and it has all the kids' names underneath. Like if I was to take a picture of my screen right now, you'd see all your names. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. I get it that we want to demonstrate how we're doing this, but maybe take just 2 seconds in your phone, in your editing features that you have in the ability to draw on a picture, and just scrub across all those names so we can't see them. That would be good. I know more kids' full names now than I ever cared to know, just from looking at all those pictures. Anybody else, other tips for now that we've had a little bit of time in this? Anything you want to add about accessible remote instruction?
We're also having an email summary as part of our workflow, just to make sure that we have documentation. In our state, in Maine, the IEP stuff is in flux right now. Mm-hmm. So once we get guidance, we'll know more about how we can do things remotely. So we're kind of in a hole because we're under the 10-day waiver right now. So other districts we're figuring that part out. But for our remote in services for OT, PT, for any of those teachers remoting in, we're doing it's kind of more of a one at a time, making sure that we're keeping that privacy. So we're not doing groups right now, keeping it very simple and doing what we need to do with the timeline wise, with the using Google Calendar and that way. So the link is super secure, and recording the meeting and also doing an email follow-up of what was covered with some resources and tips also. And Google Classroom has been a lifesaver it has been such a lifesaver. I've posted a classroom for our whole department, which has been wonderful for ed tech training, anything around all of this technology and so forth. So the tools are there. Again, the tools are there, but definitely just make sure you're documenting.
Yeah. So can we talk about the tools for a second? So yes, I wanted to put a plug in. When we were putting kind of our presentation together for our special ed staff, one of the slides, I took a picture of MacGyver, the old classic MacGyver, had to explain it to a lot of people who didn't know who that was, and just captioned it and said, assistive technology people taught this guy everything he knows, I see Judy Schoonover here is in the Zoom, Therese Wilcombe. This is the time when people who have been saying, you've got this stuff around your house. So yes, there's the high-tech stuff, and thank goodness we have that so we can communicate with each other. But there's all this low-tech stuff. This is the time to go to your garage. This is the time to find, I was posting pictures of and sharing the mouse house, that old, I think there was a post not that long ago with people saying everyone has a junk drawer or 4 of them in their house, with old wires and equipment and the old mice you don't use. This is the time when these people can shine, especially, and really assistive technology in general is use what you got and we can help you use it, because you're not really going out. You really can't buy, you could, but then you have to be nervous about what's coming in, but the stuff that's around your house, let's utilize what you got.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of what we're doing. I feel like we're a week behind in some senses because of where our spring break fell. Like our spring break starts today, but I'm sending a Google form to every OT, PT, and probably speech parent. That's going to include, do you want to access teletherapy services? But it also from all 3 professions has what things do you have in your house? Do you have cotton balls? Do you have, construction paper? Do you have kid-sized scissors? So that when the therapists then try to plan, they don't ask the therapist, they are not asking the parent to provide something outside of their house. It's going to take creativity, but definitely OT, PT, speech, and AT are kind of the masters of creativity.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Let's see. Judy sharing in the chat about Ian Bean posted some homemade doughs. I couldn't read. My reading fell apart there. Homemade doughs and paints for tactile sensory activities. Just to add those prompts and prediction types of questions. Exactly. It's awesome. Yeah. So great, right? I did a clean of my office the other day. I know you've never noticed it if you looked at it, but which is kind of a bummer. That's what my wife said when she came in. She's like, "Oh, are you done?" Yeah, I'm done. I must have thrown out an entire box of wires and all that other great stuff. But yeah, look around, see what you have. Remind people they have some things they could use. in order to support you as you support them. I know I did. I threw away wires. You can only have roughly 100 micro USB wires, and then you have to throw the 101st out. I'm not saying I threw them all out. I just threw the over 100 out. So, Elisa, do you have examples of a survey that you send to the families?
Sorry, I keep muting and unmuting on my end, and then
That's
I forget I've not unmuted.
That's okay.
Technology.
Technology.
Yes, I'm happy to post a sample of it when I finish it. So that probably will be in the next day or two. I'm meeting with my lead SLP tomorrow via Google Meet, and it'll probably be finished after that meeting. And I'm happy to post it. I'll probably post it up on Twitter,
Awesome.
just so that you guys can see. I'll post you a screenshot of the Google form or whatever, so that you guys can kind of take it and make it your own.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect.
Sharing is caring. Sharing
is caring. Here's the only other questions I had that I could think that we could start a conversation about, and then I'm game for any convo you want to have. Does any of these resonate with somebody? They want to jump on one of them? Elisa, you asked this before, supporting your students with significant disabilities.
That unmute thing got me again.
Yeah, gotcha again.
So my question before he started recording, and I think some of you guys were on, is we have, our K5 is using Google Classroom, everybody else is using online. And the questions we keep asking ourselves is, we have a lot of platforms, but what is a good best practice way to support our kids with significant disabilities? I've already talked to our therapists and our teachers that this is going to be an excellent time to work on parent coaching. But I'm curious what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I saw you nodding your head, Chris, so tell me more.
No, Alyssa, you're just reading my mind, is that you use the word best practice, or I like the term better practices. For so long, we've lived in the direct service model, and I take the student comes to a classroom, and I work with them in a direct way, and then they leave. And now we can really focus on, you're going to be there with your child, and I'm going to coach you through what to do in a very reflective way. What do you think will happen if, what are some things you have around the house? Asking a lot of questions. What does your child really like to do? What are things you like to do? What are some family things you like? Like, these are sort of the, to really amp up parent skills. This is the time. And I really wonder what happens 2, 3, 4 months from now. Why would we go back? I mean, maybe there is some sort of direct therapy model that we'd want to, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but let's just ballpark it at 80% has been direct and 20% has been coaching, and that might be high. I mean, like, maybe it's more like 90-10, but that's me, Chris, in optimistic land. But what if we just flop that? So now it's 20% is direct and 80% is coaching and consultation, and that's just how we do it now.
Yeah, it's exciting in a sense that it does allow us to really practice what we preach also too. Because for a lot of our coaching, myself included, my coaching, I was still in the space with them. And now I'm not. And so I feel like that's really going to change things in a good way. And I think you're right, Chris. I think we will see the flip to these kind of distance coaching and maybe not go back. And I'm kind of excited about it. But it starts with us thinking about the questions that we want to ask and asking good questions, because we're asking questions of a partner who is going through a lot right now. Parents with their kids home, and they're probably working, maybe not, but they might be working, and they're managing all of that. And then on top of that, we're asking them to do this too. So I think in the beginning, when we build those relationships, we're going to have to be really thoughtful about the questions we ask, how we ask them, not asking too much at any given time, and kind of pacing ourselves a bit. I think that's going to be interesting too. Well, I'm reading the chats just buzzing, but no one wants to come on. I don't know why. This is so, Jen, this is so hard, but also an amazing opportunity for better collaboration and relationship building. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for including the parent and the student as super important members of the team, where we always say they're members of the team, but how often are they really not seen as valuable members of the team? Well, now guess what? They are. They really are the focus of our team now because they are together and we're not. And so that's going to be really interesting in a good way. And Hillary says, we're using News to You and Book Creator and Life Skills, fold your clothes, make cookies, clean your room, and supporting with low, mid, and high tech. So I think that's answering Alyssa's question about supporting students with significant disabilities. I saw this question on Quiet and I threw it in the chat, in the slide, because I thought it would be as interesting. Suggestions for shared screen activities, how to do that remotely, where there's an opportunity for both people to be working in the same digital space simultaneously. The first one I thought of when I read that was using Google Drawings, because as you're logged in, you could both be interacting in there at the same time. It might be a little clunky depending on the activity you're trying to do, but that might be one. I don't know if anybody's got another one.
If you're a Google School, Mike, you could also use Kami, which is a PDF extension, but it also has a blank page. And you can, if you have a touchscreen Chromebook, you could use your stylus or you could use your keyboard, but you can share it so that you can collaborate. Any of the Google tools, as you know, are collaborative. So you could, but if you're doing distance learning, share your screen in Hangouts and, you know, have them go on at the same time, or give a student the screen so that they can show you their workflow and vice versa. Again, like Chris said, we're all MacGyvering things. So I think it's okay to have that flexibility. It's not just a tool, but that one's free. And that one is also free for schools now as well. So if you don't have it, grab it. It's great. We're using it a lot with Screencastify to have things that are recorded, but I do want to say, and this is something we're dealing with right now in our district, your videos have to be accessible. Don't just take the video out of WeVideo and put it in your classroom and call it a day. Yeah. Upload it to YouTube, take a minute and go through the captions and then post it. And that just has to happen because that's the biggest bugaboo for all of us here, but it needs to be said. Make sure we're telling teams that they have to caption their videos. I'll help teams through it, but they have to learn how to do it because that's UDL and that's best practice.
Yeah.
And I'm also doing a lot of training on Jamboard, which seems to hide in Google and people don't know it exists and what it can do. But if you're a G Suite school and you don't know about Jamboard, it's kind of one of those all-purpose, it gets a little crazy. We did a test run of like 7 kids in a class and you had people like drawing stuff on top of everybody. But it's super cool in terms of that interactive whiteboard. It allows you to do a lot of things without having to pay for another platform.
Yeah. On the same token, Microsoft Whiteboard can do something similar if you're in the Microsoft space.
Nice. Look at us.
And
and
I
Chris
believe I
dropped
also saw with Zoom that you can allow annotation with somebody else as well. So I know that there are some therapists that were using the Zoom features too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, look at the features of what you're using. You know, it goes back to what we always say, right? Look at the features of what you have. Think about what is the task you're trying to complete, and then go from there. Do your Google tools do it? Can you MacGyver it in some way to do that? Maybe in a Google slide, or like I said, in drawings or something like that. What is it you're trying to accomplish, and see how that works.
Mike, can I jump in with a suggestion here for people? So 2 layers here. One is what we're doing in our neck of the woods, and then a second is maybe how we could amplify this for the entire community. So the first thing, one of the things we noticed right away in our neck of the woods was that just with our team of 10 people, I was getting emails, or the supervisor was getting emails, and we were getting the same sort of question or different flavors of the same question. So we created a Google Sheet and said, put your questions there. Don't email me. Oh, don't email, because someone else might have a better answer, especially if it's a technical thing, you know, like, hey, do you know how blah, blah, blah works? Or do you know how this button, you know, how you rejigger the thing? So we just made a sheet of questions, not a Google form, just a sheet where you could post a question, and then the next column over was the date that you asked it, and the next column over was what the response was and who answered it, and if there's any other follow-up questions, just so we could have all of our answers in one spot. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that is not a way to proceed with this, with these sort of larger scale questions. You know, could we have what are options for captioning? And then there's a bunch of answers that are kind of go along on the column, or, you know, different rows. And then there's the next question is best ways to have interactive shared screen activities. And then we could put Jamboard, whiteboard, because people will have to get the answers this way through this video, right? They would have to have watched a half hour and wait for Brian or me to respond, or anyone else, Elisa, or whoever's been talking. And this way you get it both ways. You get the video and there's a resource, but based on the question, not on again, putting the tool last and putting the question first.
Yeah, Mike, I'm wondering if we take that Google site that you've got cooking for AT Chat and just use, you know, in Google Sites where they've got that drop down option. That seems like if it's an FAQ document and it's just a drop down of the questions like Chris was proposing, and then when you click that little drop down, you get list of tools with links.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to actually put something on that website. That would be perfect. I'm
And
writing this up sticky.
Yeah, and by suggesting it, I don't think Alyssa and I are volunteering to do it. I think we're volunteering you to do it.
Well, that's weird because your names are on this Post-it note already. That's not good.
Well, I was gonna pull Kelli into that because we had talked about doing some work on that AT Chat Google site, and it just never happened. So maybe we can make that a thing.
It's too bad that there was enough space to put. Look, I got to put Kelly's name on the bottom too. That's too bad.
Yes.
Notice whose name's not on this Post-it note, my own.
Yeah, I noticed that nicely. But I downloaded the chat so far, and I'll download it again before we get done, so we can take those tools that have been dropped in the chat and drop them in. I was going to put them in the crowdsourced Google Doc, but I think it makes more sense in terms of layout, easy to read, access kind of thing if it's Google Site where it's that drop down.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you post the link for that Google site?
Yeah, if I knew what it was, I would. And I don't want to get out of this.
I can post it in there.
Great, that would be great. I love the idea of putting the task or the question first, because all we're doing is, I mean, so many people are throwing tools at people, like these are free, this is here, and we're forgetting, like, wait a second, what is it we're answering? What do we want to do before we start just looking at all these great resources?
Yeah. What's the goal? You're so right. There's a Wakelet there too in the chat that has a lot of stuff about UDL and accessibility. At least you've helped. There's contributors on it. So if you want to add that, go right ahead. But it's more about instructional design.
I had already written that on my Post-it note.
You know, again, nothing new to us, but you know, we when I say us, people working in the assistive technology universal design space have put this technology supports the design. So really focus your time on the design. And that is a question I see coming up a lot online, which is, how can I do this? How can I do what I did in my classroom online? It's like, well, do you want to? You know, let's not take bad design and just make it online bad design. This is your opportunity to fix it and make it accessible and enjoyable for everybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. More importantly, what are people doing? They're saying, tell me an app that lets me do this, what I did in my classroom. And that's where we need to remind them.
Yeah. And maybe that's not the right question, right? It's
yeah. Like, right. Exactly. Oh, Chris, I got to know. I know I'm taking it on a tangent. And anybody who's watching the videos, what are you holding your hand up in the air for?
Me?
Are you holding something up? Were you holding your other arm up?
Oh, so I'm in my closet, right?
Oh, okay.
Don't tell my wife, but there's you can see the mess behind the screen. And so in my closet, you have like a shelf, and I can just lean on it and kind of like hold. One of these days, it's going to fall down.
It felt like you were hitting that to talk, and I just needed to know. I mean, we can all slide things away. Look, there you go. Oh, that's funny. All right. Sorry. I couldn't resist. I just needed to know what was going on there. Other thoughts from the chat? Anything else that we missed? I think using the Google site's a great example for that AT chat site. I think that's a real good use of that site, which we hadn't really done anything with yet. We made that one day, but maybe this is its moment to shine. It found its moment finally. That's good. Okay, cool.
So I have another message for leaders. If anyone happens to read this, Months ago, well, maybe weeks ago, I remember seeing a text, or a tweet from Joy Zabala. I know she popped on here. And I think it was something to the effect that just because you have the title doesn't make you a good leader. And just because you don't have the title doesn't mean you can't be a good leader, or something to that extent.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the time for that. Like, make sure you have the right people in the room. If there's a teacher that has been doing making awesome instruction in an online space, don't be like, well, we can't have them in the room because they're just on the teacher's scale. Like, invite that person in, and just because you're the superintendent or assistant superintendent, the best leaders will recognize that you don't have the tech skills and you don't know, and you need to pull those people in. So just make sure you have the right people in the room. I think that's more important than ever now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another thing along that's become really more important than ever, that we just have to be better at remembering, is asking people how they're doing once in a while, because we're all running around like just from one thing to another, even more than normal. And then give compliments as broadly and as many as you can. Hey, great job. I really like that idea. That has helped. That helps a lot. And it helps more now that we're disconnected, I feel like, and we're not seeing each other in person. I think some of us who do more of our working at home anyway have gotten kind of a rhythm to not needing that sometimes, but not everybody is the same way. So I found that those little emails that I've been sending lately that say, hey, that was a really great idea in our meeting. Thanks. That really helped. Or you're doing an awesome job. Thanks for what you're doing. That's all it takes. Just check in with people and make sure they're good.
Well said.
That was my soapbox for today. I'll find another one for tomorrow, but that's today's. Yeah. Check-ins are better. Check-ins are good. Let's see what else we got. Teachers were given guidance. Yeah. Joy says,
I'm just mesmerized and amazed at Anna down there managing little one and participating. I love it.
I know. I saw that.
I'm trying.
It was awesome.
He's got a poopy diaper too, so we're into this.
I'm so simple. That's all it takes, and it gets me completely derailed. Oh my God, that's great. Sorry. What else would you guys like to talk about? Do we have other ideas in our mind right now?
I do.
Please go ahead.
So I mentioned this last week, but I want to put a big plug in for accessibility checkers. Our school district purchased Grackle Docs. Again, I don't get paid by Grackle Docs. It's an advertisement, full disclosure, just that we like that product if you're using a Google Suite. I know Brian's going to jump in here in a second. Like, Microsoft also has accessibility checkers, yes. And there's website accessibility checkers, but those make it so simple for a teacher who has never thought of accessibility before and go, I have to do what now? And they do it once or twice and they go, oh, that wasn't too bad. I mean, I just hit a button and it walked me right through what to do. So this is that moment to make those shine, We check spelling, we check punctuation, we check grammar, we check accessibility, and that's just what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'll plug right alongside. This is something that Louise shared last week, the No Mouse Challenge at nomouse.org. If you're putting things up on the web, go through it with your keyboard and see how you can move around and navigate, and does it provide you the support that you need? Just again, those little things that we can do to remind people about accessibility, and do the things that we're doing now. Model this all the time. If you're having a meeting, model it with captions if you're doing a web meeting, and the good kind of the best practices, or as Chris says, the better practices about participating in a meeting and managing your own participation in those things, and how you can be a good team member remotely. Kelly punched into the chat about HelperBurn, which is a Chrome extension, which is really nice. There's my little plug, and I'm not getting paid by them, but it is really nice. And it has a lot of supports built into it, and now it's free for 6 months. So check them out at helperbird.com.
Yeah, I don't work for HelperBurn either, but it is really user-friendly. So I'm thinking of all these tools that are getting pushed out where students and teachers have no idea how to use them.
Yeah.
And that's a big struggle. So I like something that's really user-friendly, and it truly is. You should go, just seriously, you should check it out.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, if your school does not already pay for one of those robust Chrome-based extensions, this might give you that robustness. I didn't know if that was a word. I didn't know.
Well, Mike, and on top of that is, and I saw someone posted, it might have been Janet who had posted, there might be some concern from a school like, well, okay, we did adopt HelperBird and we used it for 6 months, and now that 6 months is over and we're past this crisis, like, and now we have to buy it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you see how useful it is? Like, yes, this is the time. Yes, you have to spend money on it now, because look how useful it was, right? So yes.
Exactly. What you did was a 6-month trial, and it was very successful. So you purchase at that point. Yeah. The most successful trial ever. All right, we'll start to wrap ourselves up. There are no other slides. Kelli, what are you guys doing on the PATINS chat tomorrow?
Tomorrow, our topic is UDL, and I just was working on it. I'll pull it up here in a second.
All right, while Kelly's looking for the topic, I'll tell you, AT Chat is our monthly open forum. Something tells me this will be the topic. I feel like this will probably be what it is. So AT Chat on Wednesday night will probably be this.
We are UDL and distance instruction within your LMS and video conferencing software.
Nice. Nice. Those PATINS people, boy, they are all right. They got stuff locked down. Very good. Awesome.
So Mike, before we wrap up, I want to know if people could drop either in voice or in the chat, if they were going to ask those questions that go in a drop down on a site, what would those questions be that would help define what that page could look like? Does that make any sense?
I'm not answering. I'm going to let someone else answer whether that made sense.
The thing that we need to know to break up the things into the things.
She's basically saying, will someone else do this?
No. No, I just want to make sure I know I don't have the sum total knowledge of what needs to go there. So if there's a burning question or a something else, I just want to make sure we've captured them all in the chat.
Would it be like, how can a student write on a PDF? Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Yes.
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 Okay, how does a student write on a PDF?
Good one, Sandy.
It was fun to watch Alyssa explain that one more time.
Thanks.
How about tools for easy captioning?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ways to check accessibility.
Right. Exactly.
How about let's go real simple. How to have a website read to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or at Google anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those can be pulled off from that crowdsourcing doc that Mike shared.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah. And there were some really nice additional resources in that crowdsource doc that were dealt with AAC. So there's been a lot of nice AAC stuff that I've seen, and I've tried to pull in there as well. Anytime I see something online, I just drop it in there as a link. So I've been trying to add as much as I can.
Something that's come up a lot is, how do we turn on voice recognition when you're using all different types of devices?
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on that, is how to get to your built-in accessibility on every device, not just the voice, the dictation, but just all your accessibility settings. Very nice.
How do you translate into different languages?
Yeah, now we're talking.
Oh, now we're just brainstorming, everybody.
Now is what we're doing. That's great. It's fine. Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted. Better together. My brain is only functioning on this much. It's kind of sort of spring break. So I need everybody brain trust help.
I agree.
Yeah, so Anna put accessible books. So maybe
where do I find accessible books? Yeah.
And how do I create accessible books?
Yes. Right.
And maybe even one for all of the current companies that are offering free services.
Yeah. The accessibility, Michelle says, what about information on the accessibility of free resources? And that's it. That was what you hit on. Kelli, you speak to her heart. That's nice. That's nice. And Judy says, let's participate.org, which is AT for young children, which is awesome. Check that out.
I can't imagine how many parents are having issues dealing with students with ADD and having them to sit for hours in front of the screen and actually think they're going to focus on classwork. And I'm wondering if those Pomodoro extensions and the, I can't think of the other one, that lock you into a website. I mean, I think that would be really helpful for parents to know.
Yeah, I think so too, Janet. I agree. And I think it's finding that balance. And I know, again, anybody who works from home knows that you don't need 8 hours to do 8 hours worth of work. I hate to be the one that puts that out there verbally, but no, I need about 3, maybe a little more. And I think we should look at this the same way. I saw somebody, again, posted it up online. Again, I'm just looking at these things as they roll past on Twitter. Joy said she needs about 20. That was just funny. I just saw it. I saw these things on Twitter where someone had tweeted out their class schedule for the day, and like it was broken into 40-minute chunks with a new Zoom link for every chunk, and it was the entire day. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had just about enough of Zoom, quite honestly. I need to get away from Zoom a little bit and do something else. And so thinking about that and really go back to the task is, what are you looking for someone to accomplish? And maybe it doesn't be on a screen.
Well, and understand that people's attention waver, and that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
What did you say, Mike?
Exactly. I barely listened to you. My heat turned on and I stopped paying attention.
It's getting people back, right? That's the...
Maybe
but
we
it's
could,
true, though.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we could consider, there's so much anxiety going on right now with a lot of students. So perhaps we could, share some of that on the Google site. Ways for anxiety. So like some calming things and social stories, social narratives.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. And Jen said in the chat, ideas for using Alexa to support parents and kids at home. I said this to Jen the other day, kind of a flip side of this conversation. I said to her that I reminded her, when people are home, start looking at the things in your house that are connected to Wi-Fi and start disconnecting them. When everybody starts coming home, and like I know in my house alone, there's 4 different Amazon Alexas that are plugged in and all running, and there's 3 laptops and my phone and everybody else, and you're sucking down bandwidth. So, if people start saying they're having issues with connecting to things, have some of those conversations that maybe you got some other, maybe your TV's connected to the Wi-Fi.
I think we've got a great start.
Wow. Way to just one up my cool orange Post-it note that had your names written on it. Thanks. All right. That's good. I like it. I feel like we got a good start. What did we do here today? Let's review. We gave Elisa a ton of work to do. My job here is done. What else are we going to do?
Hey, my name was not the only one on your little Post-it note.
I know, and I felt guilty. The guilt got me, and I wrote my own name on it, too. I wrote me.
Joy, I love
I am
the
willing to help
virtual...
too, Alyssa.
Thank you. I love the virtual zoo trip, field trip idea for some of that decreased anxiety, Joy. I feel like I might need it after this teleconversation.
I know. I'm gonna go walk around for a minute after this. So yeah, we should all do that. All right.
Well, even like a lot of places they've always done the live cameras, the live cams on eagles and animals and.
Yeah. And watch those and see what people are doing.
Yeah.
And Jen Savage had a really good idea the other day. We were talking about this, and she said to people, if you're going to plan meetings on Zoom, plan them to start at 10 minutes after the hour, because everybody else is starting it right on the hour. And so stagger your thing. I thought, what a great idea that was. Jen, I'm giving you that credit because that was awesome.
I'm not sure where I learned it from. I can't even take credit for that. So I'm just look off to my association, whoever shared that with me, I forget. But it's a good idea.
Such a great idea. I mean, think about that again.
Sorry.
I don't know about you guys. Have you seen that your platforms are getting a little jittery at times? I am. Yeah, Chris said yes. Yeah, I think there are times where I see there are heavy usage times where it's a little shakier.
And that was the huge reason why we decided not to use what everybody else was using for our teletherapy. I saw disaster all in front of me.
Yeah. And you start thinking about, when do people typically have meetings? And the other day I was on a conference call that started at 10, and I have a feeling everybody else starts their conference calls at 10 Eastern time, because it took a long time to get in. And then when I got in, it was not great. So,
you know, they would probably start earlier if Zoom did Snapchat filters where we can already have our hair done.
Oh, that would
you know, we're dressed nicely. I can just be whoever, you know, that day. I'd roll in at a 7 o'clock morning meeting.
That'd be so nice. A filter, that's what I need, yes. Diane asked one last thing before we bug out to Elisa. What are you using for teletherapy?
Therav, Therav. Was built for speech therapists, but it's got a whiteboard function. It's got, you can have multiple whiteboards set up ahead of time. So, you know, I really like what we've got cooking. Every other teletherapy project, I had a hard time finding a human being to talk to. And 2 of the major ones refused to accept POs. So that kind of nixed them off of my list immediately, and they wanted a year-long contract. And that wasn't a place that my organization was ready to go in. So there is a fee. She gave me a great deal per therapist. We have 60 therapists total. If you want her information or you know, are interested, I hesitated to even say the name because now I'm worried everybody's going to go jump on it and make my bandwidth all crazy. But she's been really great to work with so far. As soon as I said it, I was like,
it's too late. And I wrote it in the chat too. It's too late. It's out there already.
Well, you spelled it wrong, so.
I know. I'm sure I did. Yeah, but I got it. Oh,
there you
Therav.
go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right. I'm going to go leave right now and start a new company called Therapy. I got to go.
Nice.
Anybody else? Last call before we leave. 12:59. Awesome. Guys, it was a pleasure. I will process this recording and drop it up on YouTube, and I'll put it out later as a link so you guys can
Oh, goody. That'll be fun.
watch it again and again and again. All right, guys. Thanks. We'll do it again next week. We'll see what happens. All right. Everybody be well. Wash your hands. And all that other fun stuff. All right, guys.
And don't touch your face.
I'm so bad at that, but yes, don't touch your face.
It's terrible for us who are used to sort of sitting still in front of a screen all day. It's like, oh my gosh.
I am the worst at that. So
don't do that. The best advice I've ever seen is wash your hands like you just cut up the jalapenos for your nachos, and now you have to take out your contacts.
Nice. There you go. Go with that strategy. I like it.
Hashtag truth.
Ciao, ciao.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Go do good work. See you later.